Personally, I don't think it's ever going to be possible to develop one simple indicator to measure corruption, because corruption is far too complex. It takes into account many different activities at many different levels, and so the continued search for one simple story through an indicator isn't possible. But what we could do is to think about what corruption actually is in terms of all of the different activities, and then develop indicators around those individual activities. You might then be able to develop some kind of basket indicator, but it seems to me that's going to be a much more productive way than trying to search for this elusive indicator. In other parts of the development community, there are these really interesting discussions going on around thinking and working politically or doing development differently that talk about, in the words of David Booth and Sue Unsworth, politically smart, locally led development. So I would probably try to focus on reform coalitions, the idea that somehow corruption is a collective, you're fighting corruption as a collective issue, so it will happen through collective action. That's most likely going to happen through reform coalitions on the ground. So bringing together civil society, the private sector, academia, government, and other type reform actors, and supporting that sort of from the bottom up activity, that's where I would invest my money. In Afghanistan, there's a really interesting program about governance, so local governors, and they're a performance-based program to try to get local governors in Afghanistan to behave more like administrators. And it doesn't look like an anti-corruption program from the outside, but what it did was it gave very clear instructions in terms of how governors are supposed to administer their offices. It gave enough resources to do it, really good oversight, very public in terms of the reporting, but there was also a lot of peer pressure. So the different governors wanted to demonstrate their political savviness, their responsibility, for one day thinking if they wanted to achieve higher office. And it actually created a lot of peer pressure on the ground. And in the areas, my understanding is in the areas where they had this program, things worked a lot better than they did outside it. And I thought that was a really good example of something that had potentially really important impact, but wasn't designed as an anti-corruption program. That kind of came in through the back door.